There is a sacred whisper beneath the noise of the world, a presence that does not shout, yet never ceases to speak. It is not found in the commotion of accomplishment, nor in the hollow applause of those outside of you. It is the voice behind your thoughts, the stillness between your breaths, and it has been with you all along. This presence, this source, is not something to reach for, it is something to remember. You do not need to search the mountaintops or cross deserts to find it. It does not reside in a temple built by hands, nor is it confined to scripture or ritual. It is the life within your life. It is the essence behind your eyes. And it has never left you, not for a moment, not for a breath. You are not separate from source. You are not a wave trying to become the ocean. You are the ocean, simply expressing itself as a wave for a little while. You are the light trying to remember that it is not the shadow. You are the timeless self playing the role of a temporary form. And every time you feel the gentle ache of longing, know that it is the soul calling you back to what you never truly left. We've been conditioned to believe that God is somewhere else, that the divine is far off, watching from a celestial throne, handing out blessings and withholding others. But source is not a being, it is being itself. It is not outside of you, judging or punishing or rewarding. It is the very breath you breathe, the very thought you think, the very love you feel when you look into the eyes of another and recognize yourself. When you let go of who you think you are, what remains is who you've always been. Not the roles, not the names, not the wounds or the worries, but the witness. The eternal observing presence that does not age, does not fear, and does not die. That is the presence of source. That is you. And yet, we forget. We forget when we measure our worth by our bank accounts, by our titles, by our followers, by the shifting tides of other people's approval. We forget when we believe that something must be added to us for us to be whole. But how can you add more to what is already complete? How can the sky be improved by painting over the stars? We are not broken, we are buried. Buried beneath years of conditioning. Buried beneath voices that told us who we should be instead of who we already are. And healing is not about fixing ourselves, it is about unveiling ourselves. Removing the dust from the mirror so we can see the face of God shining back through our own reflection. The presence of Source has no beginning and no end. It existed before your first thought and it will remain after your final breath. It is the silence out of which creation is spoken. It is the canvas upon which life paints its joy and sorrow, its laughter and longing. And though forms change, this presence never does. If you have ever stood beneath the stars and felt a sense of home, you have touched this presence. If you've ever wept for no reason except that beauty overwhelmed you, you have known it. If you've ever held a newborn and felt something ancient stir in your chest, you have remembered. And if you're still searching, the good news is it's not lost. It's simply waiting for you to pause long enough to feel it again. The ego is loud, the ego is clever. It builds walls and calls them protection. It collects achievements and calls them identity. It fears silence because in silence it cannot exist. But you are not your ego, you are the awareness of it. You are the space in which it plays out its stories. And when you return to that space, you return to peace. The presence of Source is not found in striving. It is found in surrender. It is not activated through effort, but through stillness. Like a pond disturbed by stones, your mind must settle before it reflects the sky clearly. And when it does, what you will see is not something new, but something ancient, familiar, holy. You do not have to become more spiritual. You do not have to prove your worth through suffering or sacrifice. You are already divine. The oak tree does not have to prove it was once an acorn. It simply becomes what it already contains. And within you too is the fullness of life waiting to bloom. You may feel small, you may feel forgotten, but that is only because you are looking through the eyes of separation. Through the eyes of Source, you are infinite. You are as expansive as the cosmos, as radiant as 1,000 suns, and as essential as breath itself. You are not just alive, you are life expressing itself. You are not merely in the universe is in you. Everything you seek, from love to peace to clarity, does not arrive from the outside. It arises from the inside. The outside may trigger it, but it cannot supply it, because Source is not external. It is internal, intimate, immediate. It does not require translation, it only requires trust. Trust that you are being guided. Trust that your life is unfolding as it should. Trust that every detour was part of the destination. Even the pain had purpose. Even the loss had light hidden within it. And though you may not see it now, one day you will bless what once broke you, because it brought you closer to remembering the presence within you. You've spent enough time trying to be someone. What would happen if you simply were? What would happen if you released the need to perform, to impress, to outrun the imaginary voices that say you're not enough? You would be free. You would be free to rest, free to breathe, free to listen not just with your ears, but with your soul. You would realize that life isn't asking you to be more. Life is asking you to remember what you are beneath the noise, to come home to your own being and recognize this is where God lives. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are not the byproduct of random chance. You are the intention of a loving intelligence dreamed into form for a reason your mind may never fully grasp, but your heart always knows. You are not alone. How could you be when what you truly are is everything? And so I invite you now not to believe, but to feel. Feel into that quiet place within, the place that doesn't need to be convinced, the place that knows, the place that watches without judgment, that welcomes every part of you without condition. That is where Source waits, not in the heavens, but in your heart. Not after you've healed, but as you heal. Not once you've changed, but in the midst of your becoming. And when you truly feel that presence, when you remember who you are beneath the story, then you will walk through the world not as someone searching, but as someone shining. Not as someone trying to find love, but as love itself. Not as someone waiting to be free, but as freedom embodied. You are the light you've been looking for. You are the miracle you've been praying for. You are the peace you've been chasing in 1,000 directions, and it has always been within you. And if you listen closely, not with your ears, but with your being, you'll begin to hear a deeper language, the language of presence. It speaks in the rhythm of your breath, the stillness between your thoughts, and the quiet understanding that arises without words. This presence has no urgency, no agenda. It's simply island. And in its being, it invites you to rest, not the rest of sleep, but the rest of surrender. The kind of rest that comes when you finally stop trying to prove what you already are. This is the truth most often missed, not because it's hidden, but because it is so close. Closer than the breath you just took, nearer than your own heartbeat. And yet, the mind continues its restless search, building ladders toward heaven while heaven is already here. It's not above, it's within. It's the part of you untouched by time, unharmed by judgment, unbroken by experience. When you stop long enough to notice, you will feel that you've been carried all along, not by your effort, but by grace. Not by striving, but by surrender. Something has held you through every fall, breathed through you in every moment you wanted to give up. That something has no name, but it is everything. It is the essence that animates all things, and it has never been absent, not even for a moment. There are no prerequisites to worthiness. You don't have to climb a spiritual mountain or cleanse yourself of imagined flaws to be eligible for the love of Source. That love was never withheld. It was only veiled by the illusions we wrapped around ourselves. The idea that we are not enough, that we must become something more to be accepted, is the greatest lie the ego ever sold. But what if you stop buying it? What if you drop the mask and step forward as you are bare, vulnerable, whole? You would discover that Source doesn't meet you where you pretend to be. It meets you where you truly are. And in that meeting, the false self dissolves, not because it was destroyed, but because it was never real to begin with. We were not born to carry shame. Shame is not spiritual. It is the residue of forgetting. The soul does not know guilt. It knows learning. The soul does not dwell on the past. It extracts its wisdom and lets it go. You were not sent here to live under the weight of what was. You were sent to rise into what island, and what is perfect because it is now. There is great power in this moment, not because of what you do in it, but because of what it island. It is the doorway to eternity. The mind loves to travel, always running ahead or clinging to what was. But the soul only ever arrives here. Now, it's only here that you can taste peace, because peace is not a destination. It's a decision to return to what is already true. You do not have to chase enlightenment. You only need to notice the light that is already burning inside you. It flickers when you are kind without expecting anything in return. It glows when you forgive someone who never apologized. It shines when you look into your own pain and love yourself anyway. That light is not an outcome. It's your nature. We often ask, what is my purpose? As if purpose were a task or a title. But the purpose is not something you do, it's something you remember. And when you remember who you are truly and fully, Your very presence becomes your purpose. You become the healing. You become the reminder to others that love is not earned, it's remembered. And yes, life will challenge you. The waves will rise and you will forget again. But even in the forgetting, there is something sacred. Because every forgetting is an opportunity to remember more deeply. Like waves that retreat only to return stronger, your moments of doubt can become doorways to even greater knowing. So bless the forgetting, bless the seasons of confusion, of grief, of longing, for they are not signs that you've strayed from the path, they are the path. The cracks in your certainty are how the light gets in. And when you allow yourself to be broken open, you don't fall apart, you fall into grace. This is the paradox of awakening. You do not need to become anything. You only need to stop resisting what already island. The flower does not strive to bloom. It simply yields to the season. And in yielding, it fulfills its destiny. What if your only task was to be as you are in full surrender to the present moment? You would begin to live not from fear, but from flow. You would speak not to impress, but to connect. You would act not to gain approval, but to give expression to the love that is already brimming within. This is not philosophy. This is the quiet revolution that transforms everything from the inside out. The soul does not speak in fear. It does not speak in conditions or ultimatums. It speaks in knowing, in trust, in that soft inner voice that says, I am with you, even when no one else island. That voice may not always tell you what you want to hear, but it will always tell you the truth, not the truth of the world, but the truth of the heart. And when you listen, really listen, you will see that life is not a test, it is a gift. Not a punishment, but a process of remembering, of returning, of revealing. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to illuminate it, to bring the unseen into the seen, to be the bridge between heaven and earth. You are the presence of source in form. You are the breath of the divine, walking itself into realization. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle unfolding in real time. So breathe, not just for oxygen, but for awakening. Let every breath remind you that you are here and that here is enough. Let every exhale be a letting go of what no longer serves. And let every inhale be a welcoming home of what always has. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not less than anyone else on this path. There is no scoreboard in the soul. There is only the ever-gentle rhythm of becoming, of shedding illusion after illusion until what remains is truth. And truth is simple. You are loved. You are whole. You are the presence of source, always have been, always will be. Then listen again, not with urgency, but with openness, for the soul doesn't speak in volume, but in vibration. It speaks in the language of still waters, of early morning skies, of the hush before the sunrise. And the more you quiet the need to figure everything out, the more clearly you'll hear the invitation, return. Return not to the past, not to the pain, but to the present, where your power lives, where your essence breathes, where source waits not as a stranger, but as your truest self. The presence within you is not moved by your doubts. It does not flinch when you fall. It does not retreat when you forget. It simply remains patient, unwavering, eternal. It watches with the same serenity that the moon holds over the tides, knowing that every storm will pass, and the calm always returns to the one who stops resisting the waves. And oh, how often we resist. We resist what is because we think something else should be. We fight the moment because it doesn't match our plans. But what if life wasn't meant to match our plans? What if our plans were simply a small echo of a larger wisdom trying to unfold? To align with source is not to have life go our way, it's to trust that life is the way. Even when it wins, even when it detours, even when it burns down what we thought we needed. For in every loss, something deeper is revealed. And in every ending, the soil of a new beginning is quietly prepared. You are not here to understand every detail. You are here to live fully, love deeply, and remember often. You are here to awaken not to something outside of you, but to the truth that has always lived within. And when you do, when that awakening stirs inside your chest, even the ordinary begins to glow. Suddenly, the wind through the trees is a message. A child's laugh is a reminder. The ache in your heart becomes a teacher. And life in all its contrast and chaos becomes sacred, not because it's perfect, but because you are finally present enough to see it. You don't have to become enlightened. You already are, you've just learned to believe otherwise. Like the sky hidden behind clouds, your light has never been extinguished, only obscured. The work, if you can call it that, is not to add more light, it's to remove what dims it. Release the guilt, release the judgment. Release the need to be farther along than you are. You are not on a linear path. You are a spiral unfolding. Each return to the same lesson is not failure, but deepening. You are not going in circles. You are going inward. And that is where the treasure lives, not in the future, not in the applause, not in the validation you chase, but here, quietly, in the soft, surrendered breath of now, in the spacious pause between needing and knowing. That is where Source meets you. And the more you make space for that meeting, the more you'll begin to live differently. Not because you've changed the world around you, but because you've changed your relationship to it. Your peace is no longer dependent on outcomes. Your joy is no longer fragile. Your identity is no longer entangled in circumstance. You become still, not stagnant, but centered. And from that center you create, not to earn love, but to express it. Not to prove your worth, but to play in it. You become like the river that flows without asking permission, like the bird that sings without needing applause. You become free. And in that freedom, you become a mirror for others. You remind them not by preaching, but by being. By embodying the truth that the presence of Source is not reserved for the few, not locked behind rituals or hidden in scriptures, but available to all because it is all. There is no soul without Source, and there is no Source without you. You are the extension of the infinite into this moment. The divine having a human experience, not to suffer, not to strive, but to remember. So let yourself remember, not with force, but with forgiveness. Not with guilt, but with grace. Not with fear, but with the quiet knowing that no matter how far you've wandered, you've never left the heart of God. And now, feel this truth not as an idea, but as an energy settling deeper into your bones like a sacred silence beneath every heartbeat. There is no distance between you and the divine. The only distance that ever existed was in the mind, not the soul. And the moment you stop thinking about Source and instead allow yourself to be with it, the illusion of separation vanishes like mist before the rising sun. You've never truly been disconnected, only distracted. Distracted by the noise, by the rush, by the endless striving for worth that was never outside of you. And as you begin to slow down, not just in pace, but in presence, you will feel a reuniting, a remembrance, a sacred reunion with the presence that has never once left your side. There's no ritual you must perform to be whole. There's no belief you must adopt to be worthy. There's no pain you must hold on to as proof of how far you've come. The presence of Source asks nothing from you except your presence in return. Not as a duty, not as a debt, but as a gift to your own soul. You came here to experience, not to escape. To feel deeply, not to armor yourself against life. To express love in all its forms, compassion, forgiveness, wonder, truth. You came to be a vessel of what is eternal, poured into a form that forgets. But the forgetting is not the end. It is the doorway to remembering again and again, each time with more depth, more humility, more grace. When you stop trying to control life, you begin to cooperate with it. You flow with the current instead of resisting the river. You trust the unfolding rather than fearing the unknown. You become a sacred participant in the dance, no longer stepping on your own feet. And in that space, miracles become normal, not because they change the laws of nature, but because they reveal the deeper nature of who you are. The greatest miracle is not when something outside changes. It is when your vision shifts. When you no longer see with the eyes of the world, but with the eyes of the soul. When you look in the mirror and see not a name or a story, but a sacred presence behind the gaze. That is the moment you remember, I am not this form. I am the formless. I am not this thought. I am the thinker. I am not separate. I am Source, playing as this person for a while. And what a game at Island, filled with beauty and sorrow, laughter and loss, growing and letting go. But all of it, every moment, is holy. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. And the realness of it is what opens your heart wide enough to let God all the way in, or rather to let yourself all the way out. You are not limited by your past. You are not defined by your wounds. Your pain may explain part of your journey, but it does not define your destination. The presence of Source holds you as you heal, walks with you through the fire, and reminds you gently, always gently, that who you are is never diminished by what you've been through. You are the one who rises. You are the one who sheds layers and steps into light, not because you must, but because it is your nature to grow toward the sun. Just as the lotus rises through the mud, you too are meant to emerge clean, soft, radiant, rooted, not in the illusion of control, but in the power of surrender. And surrender is not weakness. It is strength born of trust. It is knowing that you are supported by something vast and intelligent and endlessly kind. It is letting go, not because you've given up, but because you've remembered you don't have to carry it all. You were never meant to. Source carries you, even when you forget to ask, especially when you forget to ask. And in the asking, in the quiet moment when you turn inward and say, I'm here, show me, you open a window that was always there, waiting to be seen. Light pours in, not because it was absent, but because your willingness finally opened the blinds. Let this be your practice, to remember that every moment holds the presence, that you don't need to be more spiritual, more healed, more anything. You only need to be here fully, authentically, lovingly, as you are, because as you are is enough. As you are is divine. As you are is the presence of Source in motion, in flesh, in form. And now we arrive not at the end, but at the quiet arrival of a truth that's been waiting for you all along. There's no finale and awakening, only deeper levels of remembering. The presence of Source does not crescendo into grand fireworks. It hums steadily, like the heartbeat beneath all creation, like the sacred rhythm of your own soul. So let this be your homecoming, not a place, but a presence, not a destination, but a return. You have spent years looking outward, stretching your hands into the world, hoping to grasp something that would make you feel whole. But what you were seeking was never in the hands of the world. It was always resting quietly in your own chest, waiting, beckoning, loving you, even when you forgot how to love yourself. The presence of Source is not something you invite into your life. It is something you uncover from within your life. Like a pearl hidden in the depth of your being, covered by layers of noise, shame, striving, story, and yet still shining, still whole, still yours. You were never abandoned, never without it. Even in your darkest night, you were surrounded by the light you carried. Even in your loneliest hour, the breath of the divine moved through you patiently, like a mother singing to a sleeping child. You may not have heard it, but it heard you. You may ask, how do I hold on to this presence? But the real question is, can you allow it to hold you? To hold you when you're unsure, to hold you when you slip into old patterns, to hold you when life breaks you open and leaves you raw. Can you trust that the same presence that made the stars also made you and did not make a mistake? You are not meant to be perfect. You are meant to be present. And in presence, you will find all the things you thought you had to earn: peace, love, clarity, joy. They do not arrive from effort, but from alignment, from no longer resisting what is already yours. The journey of returning to Source is not linear. It is not marked by achievements, accolades, or spiritual trophies. It is marked by softness, by surrender, by a willingness to meet yourself exactly where you are and say, even here, I am loved. Even here, I am enough. I am Zen. And when you can say that, not as a mantra, but as a knowing, the whole world changes. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You began to see with the eyes of your soul. And through those eyes, everything becomes sacred. Even the pain becomes sacred. Even the waiting becomes sacred. Even the unanswered questions become invitations to trust what you cannot yet understand. This is the mystery of the divine, that it lives in all things, in every tear and triumph, in every setback and silence, in every inhale and exhale, in your laughter and even more, in your letting go. And it is never separate from you because it is you. You are the presence of Source remembering itself. You are the divine becoming aware of its own reflection. You are the light that no shadow can erase. So breathe into that knowing. Let it root itself in your bones. Let it become the soil of every step you take from this moment forward. You don't need to go out and change the world. You only need to be the truth of who you are. Because when one person stands fully in the light of their own presence, it illuminates the path for others. Your being becomes your blessing. Your life becomes your teaching. Your love becomes your legacy. So walk gently now, not as someone seeking, but as someone who is found. Speak softly, now not with fear, but with the quiet confidence of one who knows they are held by something infinite. Live freely now, not by chasing the next thing, but by honoring the miracle that is already here. The presence of Source is always within you. And now you remember. You remember not with your mind, but with your whole being. Not as a concept, but as a home. Welcome back. Welcome in. You never left, and you never will.
You wake up before the sun, the alarm louder than your intuition. Your feet hit the floor before your spirit even stirs. You move through your day like a ghost disguised in productivity. A flurry of emails, traffic, notifications, obligations, all of it stitched together like a well-rehearsed illusion. But have you truly awakened? Or are you merely moving? There is a difference between motion and meaning, between activity and aliveness. The world will applaud your exhaustion. It will celebrate your hustle. It will reward your burnout with hollow titles and temporary applause. But deep within, your soul will whisper, this isn't why you came. You weren't born to check boxes. You weren't sent here to live in loops. You came as a divine spark, not a mechanical cog. You came to feel, to grow, to listen to the invisible melody of your own becoming, not to perform an endless dance choreographed by the expectations of others. Life isn't something to conquer. It's something to merge with. And yet, we confuse the buzz for bliss. We wear our calendars like armor. We equate urgency with importance. We say, I'm busy, as if it's a badge of worth. But busy doesn't mean present. Busy doesn't mean connected. Busy doesn't mean awake. It just means occupied, and often occupied by things that are not aligned with our soul's assignment. You could spend your whole life moving at full speed toward the wrong destination. And in the end, you'll realize that being constantly in motion never made you feel more alive. It just made you forget how to be still. Stillness is not laziness. It is the pulse of the eternal. It is the sacred space where the divine reminds you of who you are beneath all your roles. The one who watches, the one who knows, the one who doesn't need to do anything to be worthy of everything. You are not alive because you are moving. You are alive because you are aware. Alive because you are connected. Alive because you are aligned with something deeper than what the world sees. Let go of the illusion that your worth is measured in metrics. You are not a task. You are not a title. You are not your inbox. You are a sacred presence wrapped in skin and breath here for a brief moment in eternity to remember one thing, that you are already whole. And when you return to that knowing, not in theory, but in your bones, your life stops being a performance and becomes a prayer. Now take a breath. Not a shallow breath stolen between obligations, but a deep breath given to yourself as a gift. Let that breath remind you that the same force that makes flowers bloom without stress and stars burn without panic is the same force that lives within you. This moment right here is the doorway. You don't need to do more to walk through it. You just need to stop running from it. You see, aliveness is not something you chase. It's something you return to. It has always been there, under the noise, beneath the striving, like a still lake hidden beneath the fog of your to-do list. And the fog is not real. It only appears solid because you've stared at it too long. But one breath, one sacred pause can begin to part it. We have been taught to outrun ourselves, to equate ambition with purpose, to believe that busyness is a substitute for meaning. But there is no magic in checking off every box if the box of your soul remains unopened. You can have a full schedule and still feel empty. You can hit every deadline and still miss your life because your spirit does not thrive on productivity. It thrives on presence. The quiet knowing that nothing more is needed in this moment except your awareness, not the awareness that judges or calculates or measures, but the awareness that watches with loving detachment. The awareness that simply says, I am. Have you forgotten that your being is enough? That your breath, your presence, your light, these are sacred offerings, not because they earn you something, but because they are the reflection of the divine expressing itself through you. You don't need to manufacture meaning. You are meaning. Yet how many days slip by where your eyes are open, but you are not seeing? Your ears are filled with noise, but you are not hearing? Your body is moving, but your spirit is sitting in the back seat, silent, waiting for you to notice that you've left yourself behind. We are not here to race. We are not here to impress. We are not here to dominate the clock or prove our worth through exhaustion. We are here to remember, to re-enter the sacred rhythm that does not rush. The trees do not sprint to grow. The oceans do not strive to be majestic. The moon does not worry about being seen. And yet all of these are miracles, precisely because they are simply being what they are. Why should it be different for you? You too are part of that same divine rhythm. You too are a miracle, even when you forget, even when you doubt, even when the world tells you to keep running, to keep pushing, to keep proving. But what if the most radical thing you could do is slow down? Not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Because you've realized that rushing through your life is not the same as living it. There's a pulse inside you that is older than time, a frequency that cannot be heard with the ears, but can be felt with the soul. It is the voice of the infinite saying, be still, be present, be free. And when you hear that voice, not as an idea, but as an experience, your whole life shifts. Because the moment you return to presence, you return to power. Not the kind of power that controls others, the kind of power that liberates you. Can you feel it now? That gentle truth rising beneath the noise, the subtle hum of your own aliveness reminding you that you were never meant to live in fragments, half here, half elsewhere. You were never meant to scatter your energy chasing things that do not feed your soul. You are meant to be whole. And wholeness is not achieved through more doing, it's revealed through more being. You don't become more alive by adding to your schedule. You become more alive by subtracting the distractions that numb your awareness. So take inventory, not of your tasks, but of your truth. Ask yourself, what am I busy with? And does it reflect what I value? Or have I simply inherited a script written by others, repeated by culture, accepted by default? You are not obligated to continue performing a life that exhausts your spirit. You are allowed to step off the treadmill. You are allowed to stop chasing, stop proving, stop explaining. You are allowed to live in rhythm with your soul, not in reaction to the noise. It is not selfish to reclaim your peace. It is sacred. Because every moment you live in alignment, you become a lighthouse for others still lost in the storm. And this world needs more lighthouses, not more multitaskers, not more overachievers, but more fully awake souls who choose to live deliberately, love intentionally, and breathe like each inhale is a hymn to the infinite. You are here for that kind of life. And so the illusion of busy begins to crack, not because the world around you slows down, but because something within you begins to awaken. You start to recognize that not every invitation is sacred. Not every demand is yours to fulfill. Not every calendar entry is aligned with the heartbeat of your spirit. You begin to feel it, that gentle ache for simplicity, that quiet hunger to feel alive again, not just useful. What a tragedy it is to live every day and never touch the miracle of the present, to exist inside a perfectly organized life, yet feel emotionally bankrupt, to wear the costume of success while the soul starves for authenticity. But this moment, yes, this one is your permission to stop, to pause long enough to hear the sound of your own existence again. When was the last time you watched the sky stretch across the evening without checking your phone? When was the last time you felt your own breath instead of rushing to the next obligation? When did you last walk through your own life like a guest of the divine, grateful, awake, and in awe? Aliveness is not something that can be achieved through speed. It's something that blooms in slowness, in attention, in wonder, It's not in the constant motion, it's in the sacred still point beneath the motion. That quiet place where nothing needs to be earned, nothing needs to be explained, and everything simply is. The ego will scream at you to hurry. It will tell you that stillness is wasted time, that silence is unproductive, that rest is weakness. But the soul whispers a different message, that silence is sacred space, that stillness is alignment, that presence is power. And that whisper, so easily drowned by noise, is the voice of your original self. The part of you that was never busy, the part of you that didn't need achievement to feel worthy, the part of you that laughed with your whole body and cried without apology, that part of you that knew the world was enchanted long before it taught you to be efficient. You haven't lost that part. It's just been buried beneath layers of expectation and performance. But it's still there, patient, undamaged, eternal, and it will wait as long as it takes for you to remember. To remember that being is not a pause between doing. It is the foundation of life itself. The mystics and sages have echoed this for centuries. Lao Tzu spoke of the wisdom of doing nothing and letting all things be done. Eckhart Tolle reminds us that the present moment is all we ever truly have. Even Christ retreated into stillness, not to escape life, but to embody it more fully. Why? Because the sacred cannot be rushed. The truth cannot be microwaved. The soul cannot be summoned by strategy. The soul is not a task on your list. It is the list, the unchanging essence behind every changing form. And when you return to that truth, your life begins to change without you needing to force it. You begin to make different choices. You say no to things that drain you. You release the compulsion to prove. You find joy in the little moments you once sped past, the way sunlight kisses the wall, the feeling of water on your hands, the sound of wind whispering through leaves. You begin to feel connected again, not because the world slowed down, but because you did. The miracle is not out there. It's here, in this inhale, in this heartbeat, in this still, sacred now. You don't need to climb a mountain to find enlightenment. Sometimes you just need to sit down and actually feel your own life without filters, without distractions, without rushing to the next thing. Because aliveness is not a reward for doing more. It is your natural state uncovered when you finally stop trying to become and instead allow yourself to be. And oh, what a relief it is to no longer need to perform for your own existence. To lay down the armor of busyness and stand naked in the truth of your being, to realize that you are not behind, you are not late, you are not missing anything. You are exactly where you're meant to be the moment you choose to fully be here. Let that truth land in you like rain on dry earth. Let it soften the parts of you that were taught to grind and strive and struggle. Let it baptize the weary places in you that forgot the sound of your own name spoken by the soul. You are not what you do. You are not your resume. You are not your productivity. You are a vessel of the infinite, a conduit of presence, a spark of divine consciousness temporarily wearing a human disguise. And that means your worth is not up for negotiation. Not with your boss, not with your past, not even with your own mind. Your worth is fixed not because of what you produce, but because of what you are. You are alive, and that is enough. You can fill every hour of your day and still feel empty. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. You can speak 1,000 words and still feel unheard. This is the silent epidemic of the modern soul, a life so full of motion, it forgets how to feel. A life so loud, it drowns the whisper of the divine. And yet the world will call it success. It will reward your performance with applause. It will praise your exhaustion and call it dedication. It will see your absence from yourself and mistake it for achievement. But deep down, you know something sacred has gone missing, something tender, something true. You've been so busy being everything to everyone that you've become a stranger to your own presence. And maybe, just maybe, that ache you feel isn't failure. It's your soul tapping on the inside of your life saying, come home to yourself. Not the self that's been performing, the one underneath. You see, disconnection doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in subtle ways in the way you scroll to escape, in the way you rush through dinner, in the way you avoid silence because you're afraid of what you'll hear. And beneath all of it, there's a longing not to be busier, but to be real. Real like the wind that doesn't try to impress you, real like the ocean that doesn't care who's watching, real like the child who laughs for no reason, that kind of real. And here's the miracle, it's still within you. Buried, maybe, ignored, possibly, but gone? Never. That flame still flickers beneath your schedule, beneath your strategy, beneath your obligations. And all it takes to fan it into fire again is a single moment of honesty, a single breath of truth. Right now, just ask yourself, what would I be doing today if I was fully alive, not just functioning? What would change? What would fall away? And who would I become? Because in that question lies your liberation. Aliveness is not found in how much you do, it's found in how fully you show up in what you're doing. And when your presence is missing, even the most impressive life becomes a hollow performance. You might fool the world. You might even fool your mind. But your soul, it knows. It always knows. The soul doesn't measure in hours or accolades. It doesn't care how many tasks you completed. It wants to know, were you awake for any of it? Did you feel the moment or did you escape it? Did you inhabit your breath or just use it as fuel to chase something else? We live in a culture of doing, but you are not a machine. You are a being, a soul pulsing with eternal wisdom, temporarily wrapped in skin and story. And the most radical act of awakening you can commit is to stop running long enough to return to your being. Busyness is seductive because it masks discomfort. If we stay busy enough, we don't have to feel the ache. We don't have to sit with the silence. We don't have to face the truth that much of what we're doing isn't actually nourishing us. We call it productivity, but often it's just avoidance dressed in professionalism. And yet, the ache remains. The ache is holy. The ache is what calls you back. You don't need to fear it. It's not here to punish you. It's here to point you toward what you've forgotten, that you were not created to merely function. You were created to feel, to create, to expand, to love, to be. The soul doesn't rise in the chaos. It rises in the space you give it. So give it space. Let this be your turning point. Let this be the sacred moment where you stop asking, what more can I do? And begin asking, what have I forgotten how to feel? Because to feel fully is to live fully. And to live fully is not about filling every slot in your calendar. It's about opening every cell of your being. This is the invitation. It's always been here. Life is not waiting for you to accomplish more. Life is waiting for you to return home to yourself. The moment you choose presence over pressure, something ancient within you exhales. It's not a moment the world will likely notice, but your soul does. It celebrates, it rejoices, because you've remembered not intellectually, but experientially that life was never supposed to be a race. You've spent so much time striving to be enough, to be seen, to be relevant, and all along, the truth has sat quietly at the center of your being. You are already, all of it, already whole, already sacred, already free. But you've been conditioned to forget and to confuse movement with momentum, reaction with purpose, and speed with growth. But growth does not rush. A tree does not bloom faster by worrying. The seasons do not accelerate themselves through anxiety. The stars do not doubt their shine because they take millions of years to form. And yet here you are, rushing through a single lifetime as if missing a step would be failure. But your soul is not counting steps. It is watching for your return. And each time you pause to listen, to really listen, you step into alignment again. True success is not how much you do, but how deeply you meet the moment that you're in. When you're pouring tea, pour tea. When you're walking, walk with the grace of one who knows they're part of the miracle. When you're with someone you love, be so fully there that time disappears and only love remains. Presence doesn't require effort, it requires surrender. A letting go of needing to manage the outcome. A release of the ego's obsession with performance. A falling into the sacred rhythm of being. And this rhythm is where you came from. Long before you learned to schedule, to measure, to prove, you simply were. You looked at the world with wonder, not with strategy. You approached each moment with curiosity, not control. You woke up alive, not busy. So ask yourself now, who were you before the noise began? Before the labels and obligations and expectations stacked themselves around you like armor? Strip all of it away. And what remains is you, the eternal you. Not the version exhausted by the pursuit of validation, but the soul behind the striving. The stillness that's been waiting underneath every movement, every effort, every breath. And in that stillness, there is peace. Not the peace of escape, but the peace of reunion. The feeling of slipping back into the skin of your own sacredness. The joy of realizing that nothing outside of you can offer what has always lived within. You do not need to chase what you are. You only need to stop long enough to feel it. When you return to your center, time expands. One moment can feel eternal because it is being fully met. Life no longer rushes past you. It begins to bloom around you. And you start to live, not just exist. This is aliveness. This is what you came for. And no title, no paycheck, no accomplishment can match the richness of a life lived from the center of being. You may still go to work. You may still check emails, care for others, plan, prepare, but you will no longer do it from the place of lack. You will do it from fullness, from awareness, from a knowing that you are not your activity, you are the awareness beneath it. You are not a role. You are not a job. You are not a name on a document or a dot on a digital map. You are consciousness expressing itself through form, a moment of God wrapped in a moment of skin. And once you remember this, even the most ordinary moment becomes holy. The way you stir your coffee, the way you look out the window, the way you greet a stranger, all of it begins to glow with purpose, not because it's grand, but because you are present in it. Presence is the portal to all transformation. Nothing needs to be added to you. No more strategies. No more self-improvement tricks. Just presence. Because when you're truly here, the truth reveals itself without force. The peace you were chasing in the future lands in your lap in the now. The love you thought you had to earn begins to arise from within. And the life you thought was waiting for you finally begins. You are not running out of time. You are running away from presence. But the moment you stop, truly stop, time bows to your awareness and eternity enters. So don't just slow down, wake up, peel back the layers of effort and busyness and see what's been here all along. A sacred stillness, a quiet aliveness, a joy that does not depend on circumstance. Because aliveness is not somewhere you arrive, it's who you are when you stop pretending you're anything else. You do not need a bigger life. You need a deeper presence. For so long, we've been conditioned to stretch ourselves outward, to reach, to accumulate, to expand externally. But real expansion doesn't begin outward, it begins inward. It begins the moment you realize that the vastness you seek in the world already exists in the still point of your being. You are not here to collect experiences like trophies. You are here to allow life to pass through you, to let each moment transform you. The sunrise doesn't need to be captured to be sacred. The laughter of your child doesn't need to be shared to be eternal. The tears in your eyes during stillness don't need to be explained. They are all holy, and they are all signs that you are at last alive. This world will try to sell you aliveness. It will package it in destinations and devices and degrees. It will convince you that aliveness is something you can earn through more doing, more striving, more becoming. But nothing you add to yourself will complete you because you were never incomplete. You were simply distracted. And that distraction has cost you more than time. It has cost you presence. It has cost you the most valuable thing you possess, the ability to inhabit the now with your whole heart. Because the moment you truly inhabit the now, you remember the truth that you are already free. And this freedom is not loud. It is not dramatic. It's the quiet realization that you no longer need to keep proving that you belong. It's the moment you stop running and realize that what you were running toward was already within you. It's the moment you give yourself permission to feel your life, not just think about it, not just plan it, but feel it. Feel the weight of your own breath. Feel the stillness beneath the noise. Feel the part of you that was never afraid, never confused, never separate from the divine. That is your true self, unburdened, unhurried, unwavering. You don't have to burn out to earn rest. You don't have to collapse to deserve stillness. You don't have to reach rock bottom to rediscover what's real. You can choose now. You can say, enough. I will not trade my aliveness for approval. I will not sacrifice my soul on the altar of performance. Because the sacred has been whispering your name all along. Not in the chaos, but in the quiet. Not in the rush, but in the pause. Not in the crowd, but in your own heart. And once you hear that whisper, truly hear it, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start listening. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop performing. You start being, and when you begin to be, your life no longer feels like a struggle to maintain, but a miracle to witness. You don't need to add anything. You just need to feel everything. Every breath, every blessing, every moment that you once rushed past. This is not a performance anymore. This is presence. This is what it means to be alive. Not just busy, not just functioning, not just checked in on paper, but wide open to the infinite current of now, awake to the miracle that you exist, that you are breathing, that you are sensing, that you are aware. And from this awareness, a new life begins, not one built from pressure, but one built from peace. You don't need to escape your life. You need to awaken within it. Because your life is not the enemy, forgetting is. The forgetting that you are not here to perform. The forgetting that you are not here to earn. The forgetting that being alive is not a future event, but a present truth waiting to be remembered. You've spent years running on momentum that wasn't rooted in meaning. And now, something within you, something ancient, something tender is asking for truth. Not more input, not more effort, just truth. And here it is. You are already enough, already sacred, already whole. You do not need to do more to be worthy of your own breath. What you need is to pause long enough to feel it, to let it fill you, not as a function, but as a miracle. Because that's what it is, every breath, a miracle, every heartbeat, a reminder that life is not demanding anything from you but your awareness. It's not about slowing down for the sake of slowing down. It's about remembering that the divine never asked you to race, that the soul never signed up for burnout, that your essence has always known the truth. Peace is not at the end of achievement, it's in the stillness behind it. This stillness is not passive. It's not doing nothing. It is the highest act of power to be so rooted in your own presence that the world cannot pull you into its storm. To walk with still feet and an open heart. To move from a place of being, not proving. And from that place, you begin to see clearly again. You see that every moment you rushed through was a missed appointment with the sacred. That every time you chose urgency over presence, you left a part of yourself behind. But you don't need to grieve that now. You just need to come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to this moment. Come back to yourself. Because this is what aliveness feels like. Not complicated, not distant, just here. The feeling of your bare feet on the floor. The warmth of light on your skin. The sound of your own laughter. The gentle awareness that nothing needs to be added because everything you've been chasing is already inside you, waiting for permission to rise. You do not have to sacrifice your soul to succeed. You do not have to dim your joy to be accepted. You do not have to stay busy to be valuable. The real success is presence. The real wealth is peace. The real freedom is choosing to live on your own terms, slow, awake, whole. And in this moment, this breath, this sacred return you choose to stop measuring your life in output and begin measuring it in depth. You choose to let go of who you were trained to be and become who you were born to be. You choose to no longer trade your aliveness for approval. You choose to stop, to feel, to be, to live. Because just because you're busy doesn't mean you're alive. But now that you've remembered, you are fully, finally, gloriously alive.